Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. As promised, here is the recap of my dramatic weeks 35 through 39 pregnancy update. So if you watched my labor and delivery story video, then you'll know that my weeks 35 through 39 were really hectic, really chaotic, and so much happened. So much so that I ended up having to be induced at 39 weeks. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link down below, so be sure to check it out. But this is basically what happened. So at my 35-week visit is when everything kind of started. So at my 35-week appointment, I had a sonogram and then I spoke to my midwife. And after my sonogram, when I went to talk to my midwife, she said everything looked great except my cord Dopplers were elevated. So basically that means that the blood flow in the cord to the baby had like a higher pressure than normal. I think it was supposed to be under a 2.5 and it was like a 3 or a 3.5. So it was just like elevated enough to where she told me that she wanted me to do a non-stress test that day. So we did an NST that day. And basically an NST monitors your contractions and then the baby's heart rate in response to those contractions. And since I had been having contractions since weeks 33 or 34, it ended up being something that, you know, I was actually curious because I wanted to see my contractions on a monitor and prove that that's actually what they were. Because I'm a first-time mom, I had no idea if what I was feeling was contractions, but I was like 99% sure they were. So I was nervous to hear that, you know, the cord Dopplers were elevated. I didn't know how serious that was. And then they put me in the NST chair, which you sit there for about 20 minutes and they, you know, hook you up to these monitors on your belly and you can see on the screen one level is your contractions and one level is baby's heart rate. So it's actually kind of fun to watch. But instead of watching the monitor, I'm sitting there Googling to death what elevated cord Dopplers mean and just really freaking myself out about it. So I'm hooked up to the monitor for about like 15 minutes and I'm actually having like decent contractions. And so my midwife had been monitoring them and she came in and talked to me and basically told me that because my cord Dopplers were elevated, I'm having contractions and all of these other things were going on now, that she wanted to do my Group B strep test early. So normally they do it at 37 weeks at my office, but because I was at risk for premature labor since I was having so many contractions, she wanted to do it as soon as possible so that we had the results, and if I went into labor early, we would know if I was Group B strep positive or negative. So she ended up doing a cervix check and I was 1 centimeter 20% effaced, so really not much progress. And then she did the Group B strep test and we talked about the cord Dopplers. She told me to rest as much as possible, no exercise, just, you know, try and almost do modified bed rest. So that's what I did. And she wanted me to follow up with a maternal fetal medicine specialist the following week. So the following week I had to see a maternal fetal medicine specialist and her. So basically I was having 2 weekly visits, 2 NSTs a week, and 1 biophysical profile, which is where they look at the cord Dopplers and they look at like the measurement, or not the measurements of the baby, but like the they just check out all of this stuff with the baby. That's a terrible way to describe it. A biophysical profile is a prenatal ultrasound evaluation of fetal well-being, and then they check your amniotic fluid and your cord Doppler. So that's a better explanation for what I was having done. So I went to the maternal fetal medicine specialist the next week and had the sonogram, had an NST. My NST, they said, looked picture perfect. The maternal fetal medicine doctor said he didn't care about contractions. That's normal at the end of pregnancy. And he said the baby's heart rate was responding beautifully during the contractions. And then my sonogram came back perfectly normal. My cord blood Dopplers weren't elevated at all. And the maternal fetal medicine basically said to me, I don't know what you're doing here. You have a healthy pregnancy. Everything is going fine. So I was relieved and frustrated at the same time because I had been torturing myself, Googling things. I had been on modified bed rest. I had been made to feel like something was like really wrong. And he basically told me that everything was going great. And he said he just needed to follow up with me the following week as like a protocol. So then a couple days later, I had my midwife appointment, and I had another NST and sonogram, and once again, everything was perfect. So I had 2 back-to-back perfect NST and perfect sonogram, and I finally thought that, everything was good. We're back on the road to normal, healthy pregnancy, easy delivery, blah, blah, blah. So that was my 36th week. So 37 weeks comes, and I go back to maternal fetal medicine specialist, but this time I had to see a different doctor because the doctor I saw wasn't in. And she basically said that my cord Dopplers were elevated again. And I had been having an issue my whole pregnancy, actually not my whole pregnancy, but starting at like 25, 26 weeks, my liver enzymes were slightly elevated, and it had been something I was monitoring for a while. I was just getting blood work like every couple weeks, and they never really skyrocketed. They just kind of remained slightly elevated. So they just kept an eye on it. It wasn't something that I needed to like do anything about. And at one point they went back to a normal level, but then they went back up again. So this doctor that I saw at the maternal fetal medicine specialist said because I had the elevated liver enzymes and because I had the elevated cord Dopplers, she wanted to do a full preeclampsia blood workup, which was so annoying because at this point I am 37 weeks, I'm full term. I just wanted to be left alone at this point because if I had the baby, they wouldn't stop it at this point. So why did I have to go through all of these tests when I really didn't think it'd matter? But she recommended me being induced. Her wording was, she said that I should be induced anytime after 38 weeks. And basically my midwife would need permission to induce me anytime before 39 weeks based on New York law. So she gave the recommendation anytime after 38 weeks, I was good to go based on, medical need. And I decided to just do the blood work. I figured it was better to be safe than sorry, and if I did end up having preeclampsia, I would know going into my next pregnancy it'd be something to look out for. I mean, I didn't think I had preeclampsia because I didn't have any swelling, I didn't have headaches, I didn't have high blood pressure, I had no symptoms of preeclampsia, so I don't understand what I was being tested for other than elevated liver enzymes. So I did the full preeclampsia blood workup, I did a 24-hour urine test, I did everything, and it all came back picture perfect. So no preeclampsia, thank God. But I still had the elevated cord Dopplers and elevated liver enzymes. And so I went back to my midwife for my twice weekly appointment, and my cord Dopplers were normal again. So it was like every other visit, they were normal, they were abnormal. This one, they were normal again. So at that appointment, my midwife was like, we're scheduling you for an induction on Tuesday. So the following Tuesday I'd be 38 weeks. And she said because the maternal fetal medicine specialist said you should be induced at 38 weeks. And I kind of pushed back and said, like, can we wait? And she said it's better to have it scheduled. And that's what she wanted to do. She said it was just better off that I be induced and be done with it. She said babies don't get cuter, they just get bigger. And, I had grown a full, healthy baby, and it was time to just get her out because it wasn't benefiting me anymore and it wasn't benefiting her. So I had one more appointment before this induction, and it was the maternal fetal medicine specialist. And at this appointment, my NST was perfect. The cord Dopplers were perfect. I got all my preeclampsia blood work back, and it was perfect. And I thought at this appointment, this is on a Friday, and I'm supposed to be induced the following Tuesday. So she told me at this appointment that everything looked great. And I thought she told me that I didn't need to be induced. So I leave that appointment on cloud 9 thinking I can go into spontaneous labor. In the meantime, I'm trying everything to go into labor on my own. I did not want to be induced at all. I had heard horror stories of it. It wasn't something I wanted for my birth. So that day I texted my midwife and said, I just left, the maternal fetal medicine doctor. She told me I didn't need to be induced. When should I come in for my next appointment? And you can cancel the induction for Tuesday. And so she calls me twice, and immediately my stomach sinks because I just have a bad feeling about it. And I didn't pick up because I'm a coward, and I just wanted to stay on my cloud 9 and be happy that I could have a natural birth. And then she texted me and said, not canceling the induction for Tuesday, you still need to be induced. And I got so irrationally mad. I thought she was trying to force me to an induction. I'm freaking out. I'm calling my mom crying. I'm calling my husband crying, telling them that I'm being forced into an induction against my will. And, you know, I thought everything was going great. I had such a great appointment that day. And so I called the maternal fetal medicine doctor again, and I had to leave a voicemail for her, and I knew she wouldn't call me back till after office hours, so I had to wait till after 5. And meanwhile, my midwife's calling me all day, you know, trying to figure out what's going on with me, why I'm not picking up her calls, why I want to cancel the induction, like just pure chaos. And I'm like almost 38 weeks pregnant. I'm just so hormonal, so emotional, so drained from everything I had been through, from like everything being great at one appointment, the next appointment they're scaring me again, and then everything being normal, and you know, it was just a vicious cycle, and I was so over it. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the maternal fetal medicine doctor to call me back, I am looking for new providers and trying to Google if any provider would take me on at 39 weeks, and nobody will. Or at 38 weeks, and nobody will. So that was rough. So at this point, I text my midwife and say, I don't want to talk. I am really frustrated. If you need to talk to me, you can reach out to my husband and he'll give me any message you need to give me. And so she calls my husband, and, you know, is so nice on the phone. And she's like, I just really want to deliver your baby. I want to be there. You know, I think it's important she's induced, and why don't you come in Tuesday morning and we can talk about it. And this is Monday. So come in the following morning, the day I'm supposed to be induced, and we can talk about it. So I agreed that I would go in at 8 a.m. to talk to her. And this is the Tuesday I'm supposed to be induced. So instead I'm going to a morning appointment with her. And she said she'd cancel the induction for now. And the maternal fetal medicine doctor calls him back and says that I misunderstood and that I should be induced even though my appointment was normal. And her reasoning was, they don't know why the core Doppler keeps being elevated, and they don't know why my liver enzymes keep being elevated. And she said the same thing my midwife said. It wasn't benefiting me anymore. It wasn't benefiting the baby anymore, and the baby could be laying on her cord, or you never know what she's doing in there, and you can't control it. So if she's pulling on her cord or laying on her cord, it could compress the cord, and she's not getting what she needs from umbilical cord. So Tuesday morning comes, and I go to my midwife appointment with my husband, and basically while we're there, she's really nice. She talks me through it, and she asks what I want to do. And at this point, the never-ending circus merry-go-round of up and down appointments and, you know, being scared that something's wrong or something could go wrong, she asked me if I just still wanted to be induced that day, and she'd call the hospital, and I said okay. So she called the hospital, and they said to come now. So I went home, took a shower, ate breakfast, and we ended up going to the hospital. So I was induced on a Tuesday, and Wednesday night there was a full moon, and I told my husband, I was like, if I could just hold out till Wednesday night, I think my water will break and I'll go into labor. But I think I was wrong, because I was in labor at my induction for 39 hours. So this baby was not ready to come on her own. And somehow when I had checked into the hospital, I had gone from being 1 centimeter and like 40% of phase to being no centimeters. I was closed, and I think I was still 40% of phase. I don't think that changes, but it was a long process. But weeks 35 to 39 were just so dramatic and upsetting, and just not a fun way to end a pregnancy, because up until then I had, you know, passed all the tests. I had done the NIPT, I had done the glucose test, I had done all these tests, and everything came back normal. And I thought I had just had such a healthy, relatively easy pregnancy, minus having really bad morning sickness. But it was just not a fun way to end the pregnancy. But I was induced at 38 weeks, 5 days, and ended up having the baby at exactly 39 weeks. And because she was healthy and because everything went smoothly, I don't regret it at all. So yeah, that was basically my really dramatic ending to all of the pregnancy updates I have on my channel. That was my weeks 35 through 39. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.